everyone, welcome back to science class. Today's topic is going to be about renewable energy sources. So last class we talked a bit about fossil fuels, where we find them, what they are, and what we use them for, as well as the effects of mining on the environment and society. So we remember that fossil fuels were once really ancient plants and animals that passed away and have been buried under layers and layers of rock, and they've been decomposing for millions of years, and they have basically turned into coal, oil, and natural gas. We humans extract these from the earth through various of different ways, and then we take these, refine them into different substances, such as maybe plastic or gas or diesel, and then we burn those for energy. Now, burning fossil fuels releases greenhouse gases. Specifically, it releases carbon dioxide. And we know that the more greenhouse gases we put into the atmosphere, the more enhanced the greenhouse effect becomes, which makes the planet warm up faster. Fossil fuels are a limited resource. There's only so many deposits of fossil fuels on Earth right now. You see, fossil fuels were made from ancient plants and animals. And quite frankly, not all of the ancient plants and animals that lived millions and millions of years ago got turned into fossil fuels. So there is a very limited quantity of these materials in the earth. And because of this limited quantity, we consider fossil fuels to be non-renewable. Now we know that a lot of areas and a lot of regions use fossil fuels to power their cities, to power transportation, and to make all kinds of different things like computers, clothing, anything plastic, really. If we're running out of fossil fuels, what are these regions going to do then to meet their energy needs in 50 years, in 100 years from now? Well, there are alternatives, and these alternatives have benefits not just for society in the future because, fossil fuels are going to run out eventually, but they also have benefits because they don't release as much greenhouse gases as burning fossil fuels does. So let's take a look at these different methods of getting energy. So when we talk about alternatives to fossil fuels, there are a couple of different options. There are what we call the renewable energy sources. Renewable energy basically means that we are able to harness energy from sources that can renew themselves in a short period of time. The first one I'm going to talk about is hydroelectricity or hydro energy. And we should be pretty familiar with this in Quebec, in Ganawage, because Quebec predominantly uses hydroelectricity to power the province. Most of our electricity comes from massive dams up north. So hydro energy comes from moving water, whether that's by a river or by a waterfall. Normally you want to have a very large volume of water passing through at an incredibly fast rate in order to get that energy that you want. So what people will do is that they will build dams that block fast-flowing rivers or fast-flowing waterfalls, and then they will use the dam to control the amount of water flowing through it. The water flowing through will turn these giant turbines, which then generate electricity. Now, of course, damming a massive river does have its consequences on the environment. This means that whoever is living in that area, in that floodplain where it would be dammed, would have to move. This includes animals as well. And of course, all the trees that are existing in that area, they won't survive, so you can lose a lot of trees by damming up an area. The second one I want to talk about is solar energy. Now, solar energy is the energy that comes from the sun in terms of light. Light can actually be transformed into electricity. You just need to have a very special panel that traps the sun. This is called a solar panel. Now, solar panels are made from precious minerals that need to be mined, and they will form the panel, and the panel has to face the sun at an ideal angle. The sun will hit the solar panel, and the panel will convert the solar energy into electrical energy. So the downside of solar energy is that you have to mine for these precious minerals. And we've already talked about the effects of mining in the last video. Now, another downside, at least here in Canada, is that we get a lot of snow. So wherever we put solar panels, we have to make sure that they're at a steep enough angle that the snow can just fall off and that it won't accumulate. The next one I want to talk about is wind energy. Now, if you have driven around Mercier area, you might have seen these giant wind turbines coming out of the earth. So wind turbines are designed to take the energy from moving air, or wind, and turn it into electricity. The way this happens is very similar to the hydro dam. The wind pushes the turbine turns, it powers a generator, and then the generator is the thing that transforms your wind energy into electrical energy. Now, the downside of wind turbines is that they have to be placed in an area that gets a lot of wind. You can't just put it in an area and expect there to be wind to make electricity, because there has to be a certain amount of wind per year that happens. And the wind has to be a certain strength as well. So the places that you can put these wind turbines is, limited to a certain extent. Now, here in Canada, we have quite a few windy areas. We have this entire corridor of the St. Lawrence that tends to be quite windy comparatively. We also have wind turbines along the coast where you get a lot of the sea breezes coming in. And we also get quite a bit of wind when you approach the Rockies. So in Alberta, you're going to see quite a few wind turbines near the Rockies as well. Next up is tidal energy. Tidal energy is where you take turbines and put them deep in the ocean, and the ocean tides and the movement of the ocean will turn those turbines, which then power a generator, which then turns the ocean energy into electrical energy. So basically, you need to have an ocean nearby. Now, Canada is bordered by 3 oceans. Unfortunately, most of our coastline is not really accessible during a lot of the years because, ice and winter happens. And a lot of the coastline is also very remote. It's not close to where the people are, which is where we would need the electricity to go. So in Canada, we have a pretty limited location to put our tidal power stations. Next up, we have geothermal energy. Geothermal energy takes the energy from deep beneath the ground and turns that into electricity. Normally what you would do is you would dig a pipe deep into the ground, and the pipe would come up. And you would put in water or some kind of solution. So you would pump water deep into the earth, and then as it gets deep into the earth, it warms up. Now, at a certain depth, it will actually become hot enough that you can turn it to steam. Now, this steam will come up the other side, and it will be used to turn another turbine, which then powers a generator, which takes the geothermal energy and turns it into electrical energy. Not only can we use it to form electricity, but people can make use of geothermal energy in their very own homes. In fact, you can use geothermal energy to heat your homes. My parents put in their geothermal heating system a couple years ago, and it's worked really well. Not only can they heat their homes in the winter, but they can also cool their house in the summer. The last renewable energy I want to talk about is biofuel energy. Now, biofuel energy is made from biomass. Biomass is things like wood waste, agricultural waste, basically anything that is like plant-based that we don't really consider to be usable for, everyday use kind of thing. To get our energy from biofuel, you do have to burn it. And burning biofuel does release greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide. However, it is still considered to be a renewable source because we're not using ancient dead plants and animals. We're using waste from the forestry industry and the agricultural industry, which, they keep growing things every year and they keep cutting things down every year. So it's considered to be a renewable source. You might be asking, well, Megan, what about nuclear energy? What is nuclear energy? Well, nuclear energy is an alternative to fossil fuels, but it is not considered to be a renewable energy source. The reason for that is because to make nuclear power, you need to have these very special minerals. One of them being uranium, another being plutonium. These minerals are very rare, and they're only found in the ground. We can't really just make them. And also working with these things is dangerous because they're radioactive. So there is a limited source of these minerals. So nuclear energy is an alternative to fossil fuels, but it is not considered to be renewable. Now we have to consider that with nuclear energy, there is what we call nuclear waste associated with it. Nuclear waste is radioactive, and it's incredibly dangerous to anything that it comes in contact with. So when humans design a nuclear power plant, they also have to have a plan for how they handle the nuclear waste. Of course, there's also the worry of safety around nuclear plants in general. We have heard of a couple of different instances where there was a nuclear meltdown, such as Chernobyl. Chernobyl was a devastating catastrophe that happened pretty early on when this technology was relatively new. Since then, we have definitely increased our safety standards and we understand the properties of radioactive substances a lot more. However, there is still the probability of a nuclear meltdown happening even in this modern era. Take a look at Fukushima in Japan of 2011. So these are just things that we have to consider when dealing with nuclear energy. Thank you for listening, and I will see you guys next time when we start talking about chemical reactions. Bye!